Folks, the picture you see in front of you is a picture of the governor of Texas. It's Governor Greg Abbott. And if you think you got things bad in whatever state you live in, you need to imagine living here in Texas. Now, honestly, as far as the living conditions and everything are concerned, I love Texas. I mean, Texas is great. Real estate prices are great. Utility prices are great. Cost of living is not as crazy as it is in California or New York. I mean, the living here pretty much is great. Now, the weather, we get our share of tornadoes. We really don't have a lot of earthquakes unless you live in Irving, where they're doing a lot of fracking. And they have noticed a major uptick in the number of earthquakes. But all things being said, living in the state of Texas, if you're retired, is pretty much on the money. But now, there are other issues that need to be addressed as well. Now, Texas is one of those holy roller states. I say holy roller because they're into quote-unquote religious liberty and stuff. This is an anti-abortion state. This guy, along with the Texas legislature, were trying basically to get around Roe v. Wade and pretty much do everything under the sun to outlaw abortion. Now, I'm not a big abortion fan, to be honest with you, but I do believe that, you know, women should have a right to choose. Now, I think that men should have some say-so, i.e. the male who created the pregnancy should have a little say-so in this, but ultimately, the woman's got to carry it. You know, it's her right to choose. These guys try to basically legislate abortion clinics out of existence. And I mean, they went crazy. I think we went from approximately, I'd say, about 100 abortion clinics before they started their attack on them, down to about 15 or so. And they were trying to get rid of the other 15 by coming up with bullshit. The abortion doctors had to have admitting privileges. The abortion clinics had to basically become urgent care centers as far as equipment, the layouts of the buildings, etc., etc. They were pulling all kinds of crazy crap, but they got shot down by the Supreme Court, so they had to basically stop, but they're still trying to fight it. Anyway, with all that being said, okay, Donald Trump has put this guy back on his path and his crazy rants about voter fraud. Now, Texas had some of the most restricted voting, I call it voting suppression laws in the country, as far as voter ID and the types of picture IDs that you had to present in order to be able to vote. Now, they specifically targeted students because they wouldn't accept any type of student ID, even those issued by state universities, which obviously are state funded and controlled organizations. So if they issue an ID, you would think that it would be good, but nope, they would not take a state issued ID from a college or university. Okay, and there were other forms of active IDs, but pretty much the only thing they would take is a state identification card, a state issued driver's license. They'll even take your concealed carry license. Okay, but other forms of ID they just wouldn't take. Anyway, that got struck down, and they were still going to try to fight it. Now, how they're going to do that, I don't know, because the Supreme Court was the one that struck them down. Now here's the latest kick with this fool. You're all aware that Donald Trump has started jumping up and down about 3 to 5 million illegal residents voting in this past election. And that's just Donald Trump's ego not willing to accept the fact that more people voted for Clinton than for him. Now, he won, and I'm not even going to basically want to debate that. He won in the Electoral College, he won. That part is over. He needs to get over the fact that he lost the popular vote. Bush got over his loss of the popular vote and took his win and kept on going. Trump needs to get over it and take his win and go home. But Trump can't do it, and this guy is jumping on the bandwagon. Now, Donald Trump basically has made it an unsubstantiated claim about voter fraud, okay? And Governor Greg Abbott said voter fraud is real. He happened to have gone on Fox News this morning talking about voter fraud. Excuse me. He says voter fraud is real and must be stopped. We need every tool to go after it. Folks, there is no voter fraud. This is Texas. Pretty much all of the voting districts are controlled by Republicans. So if there's any voter fraud, the voter fraud would have to be Republicans pretty much doing it. So that's number one. Number two, there is a national organization of the people that control the basic voting districts, i.e., the voting machines and the sites and all of that. The national organization has said there is no evidence of voting fraud. Yet these guys come out here with these bullshit statements about voting fraud. Now, he went on to say that he had prosecuted 50 voter fraud cases as Attorney General. He didn't tell us how many convictions he got, just that he prosecuted 50 cases. Now, I believe he was an Attorney General for at least 4, if not 8 years. So, over 8 years, 50 cases basically is what? Less than 10 cases a year, a little bit more than 5 cases a year, and he hasn't even told us how many convictions that is. Now, you take that 50 cases over how many millions of votes have been cast in the state of Texas, and the number is minuscule. That number would not affect any election other than for possibly local dog catcher, which might be decided by, anywhere from 1 to 20 votes. But if you're talking about a mayor's race for like Houston or Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, any of the larger cities, 50 votes is not going to make a difference. So for him to say that voter fraud is the next thing coming as far as the apocalypse is concerned is a bunch of bullshit. Now, he had to back up somewhat and said that he had no information or data about what happened in the most recent presidential election. So basically, he's just trying to blow smoke up our asses as far as voter fraud is concerned, just like Donald Trump. Now, Trump is going to have us spend a ton of money investigating something that is non-existent. It's non-existent. Now, in Texas, the election complaints are filed with the Secretary of State's office, which reviews the complaints and decides whether to refer them to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General's office has the power to investigate the complaints. Our current Attorney General, who was another Republican was interviewed this past Wednesday, and he says his office remains constantly involved with voter fraud issues. But even he said he hasn't gotten any referrals from the Secretary of State's office regarding voter fraud. The Secretary of State is Rolando Pablos, and he was also interviewed this past Wednesday, and he said that he is confident that the state's election system is one of the best in the country. He claims that they have multiple layers of safeguards in place to prevent illegal voting, and they remain constantly vigilant to guarantee that the voices of Texans at the ballot box are not muted by those who attempt to engage in abuse or fraud within the election system. In the state of Texas, Mr. Pablo said, "We have taken and will continue to take all allegations of illegal voting very seriously." So I ask you, the election people claim there's nothing going on. The Attorney General claims there's nothing going on. Everybody and their brother is claiming that there is nothing going on. Yet and still, this guy gets out there claiming that voter fraud is this giant issue that must be fought to your last breath. I just don't get it. This is a Republican-controlled state. The Republicans damn sure are going to try to nail any Democrat trying to fuck around. So if there's anybody that's messing around, it's got to be another Republican. They don't have any cases as far as this year is concerned, or this past election is concerned. No cases referred for voting fraud, yet this guy comes out of there opening up his mouth talking about how bad voter fraud is. Now, let me tell you where Donald Trump is getting his 3 million to 5 million illegals that voted. A former Texas official, Greg Phillips, said on Twitter that he had discovered more than 3 million people who voted that were not citizens. Phillips' claim was later highlighted in InfoWars, a conspiracy theory website run by Alex Jones, a Trump ally. So there you go, fake news. Now here's a little data on voter fraud cases here in Texas. Only 15 voter fraud cases have been prosecuted by the Attorney General's office between 2012 primary elections and July of 2016. None of the cases involve voter impersonation. Even though they've won pretty much every statewide office for years, some Texas Republicans routinely complain about voter fraud. And Governor Greg Abbott has called it rampant. The Obama administration argued earlier this month, beginning of January, that Texas lawmakers intentionally discriminated when they passed their strict voter ID law in 2011, and they lost. So this is a case of making up a problem to fit a solution. There is no voter fraud. And I get so goddamn tired of these guys making up stuff in order to disenfranchise minority Black and Hispanic voters in the state of Texas and elsewhere throughout the country, primarily in the southern states. All they're trying to do is to reduce the power of the minority vote, which they recognize is increasing in strength. And these guys are trying to hang on to power, clutching with their fingernails to holding on to power, which they know they're ultimately going to lose. So they need to get over this bullshit voter fraud thing, give up the ghost, okay? They need to stop gerrymandering the various voting districts. They're doing everything in the world, as I stated, to hang on to power. They're gonna lose it sooner or later. Here in Texas, you know, my feeling is it might not be 2018, but it's damn sure gonna be 2020. You mark my words, Texas is gonna go from red to at least purple, because there are a lot of people of color that are coming of age, and the number of white people as a percentage is shrinking, and it's shrinking rapidly. So we will see. But again, Greg Abbott, Republican to his heart, you know, he's pretty much got his nose up Donald Trump's ass, and whatever Donald Trump says, he's going to co-sign.